Alright, it's time to talk about Infinity Train Book 3, without a script, because it's more fun that way. The first thing I want to think about is how this one compares to the previous seasons. So I guess I should run down what I thought of them. I felt Season 1 was the weakest out of all of them so far. While Tulip has a really strong character arc and the story about having divorced families was handled really, really well, I just think it doesn't take much use of the concept, and 1-1 and Atticus aren't really that great of side characters. Maybe mainly just Atticus, I don't know, I didn't find him too entertaining. And there's just a lot of time spent not using the train, you know? For a show called Infinity Train, that season just has a lot of stuff outside of carts or looking in Tulip's memories and stuff. It just wasn't too imaginative. Book 2, on the other hand, was much more what I was expecting from this series. The main character dynamic with Tulip and Jesse was really funny. The sort of deeper parts of the train we get to see are way cooler than they were in Season 1. And just the general train cars are way more interesting and creative, and you just get to see more of them. They get more of a focus. Kind of the only thing I didn't like about this season was when the Apex showed up and just kind of created a conflict to separate the characters, because you just have to always do that when there's like a good character dynamic thing going on. But there was a lot of cool action with the mirror police, is that what they were called? I don't actually really remember. The guy getting hit by the wheel and stuff like that. That was great. Now, Book 3, you know, the more I think about it, the more I realize, like, it's probably absolutely the best book so far. But I think my personal preference is I still like Book 2 the most, but this is absolutely a really, really close second. So what makes this one so strong? Well, probably the drama and the characters. Like I just said, in Book 2, when the Apex were introduced, I didn't really like them because they just seemed like a plot device. Like, it was an interesting concept, and it was an interesting concept that was absolutely worth exploring further in the Book 3. But as they were in the previous season, they didn't have much character depth. But here, they go off. Compared to previous seasons, I felt there was such a good, like, show don't tell kind of like natural writing in this season where nothing seemed too blatant. Like, within the first 5 minutes of the first episode here, you get so much more character out of Grace and Simon than you did before, and just so naturally. They don't have to, like, look at the camera and be like, I am Grace, I feel this way about this thing. Just the way that they talk to each other is what gives us the story. And yeah, you know, it's not like the other seasons didn't do that too much or anything like that, but this is just something that I really, really like from stories. When they just throw you into it and you need to figure it out just by watching. They don't have to be super expositional about it, because that just gets boring. And if you can understand what's going on without the exposition, then having exposition like that makes it feel like it thinks you're stupid or something. But here, it's all totally natural. It's such a significant increase in writing and visual quality. Even just starting the season off with all the Apex kids absolutely destroying that musical car, like that was beautifully horrible. Ultimately, I think the first 2 episodes of this book aren't all that interesting. Once Hazel and Tuba show up, it gets way better. Hazel is adorable and wonderful, because one thing I was thinking about is it's sort of hard to write a little girl character that is that young and not make her very explicitly like a plot device to make the characters more parental and stuff. She feels like her own really, really fun, fleshed out character who is in no way annoying. I think the only thing that ended up making her feel like she was very much more of a plot device was the fact that she just kind of leaves with Amelia towards the end. But I guess that's probably not the clutter of the plot, and I guess that's what Book 4 would end up being about if we got one. I wish she had a bit of a stronger conclusion, but other than that, she was hilarious. Tuba was great too, and my goodness, like, killing Tuba off like that, like, it takes a lot to get me anymore. Like, I feel like I've seen everything, you know, but that twist there really got me surprised. It was really, really well timed, and it's really, like, ominous as heck and evil. It was great, even though, you know, it genuinely hurt my heart a little bit, because if we go back to my reaction stuff, like, I was so excited that a monkey was going to be a main character, because I love monkeys. Is Tuba not, like, just the best, like, character design you've ever seen in your entire life? And Tuba was hilarious for the time she was on screen, and then they kill her. And I guess, you know, that's the point, really. They got me good with that, and I'm surprised, because usually stuff like that doesn't get me. That's just kind of what Infinity Train has been good at for basically all 3 of the books. There's always an element in there where it's like, it's something that I've never seen in a Western cartoon. Season 1's focus on divorced families. Season 2, just some of like the, you know, obviously the violence with the mirror police, and also just Mirror Tulip's story about like learning to accept herself and stuff like that. I think that was handled in a really interesting way. And then this season here, the fact that the main characters here are very clearly the villains from the very start of the season. you're watching the villains of the show. And that's something I just feel like, media strays away from doing unless it's like, Joker, like an R-rated thing. They always feel the need to like very quickly make a character who's evil nice. Take Steven Universe, for example. I guess like they turn most major villains into like comic relief very quickly. They don't want a villain being a part of the cast without them being like cute. But here, we watch this progression of basically just Grace realizing, oh, maybe I'm like horrible. But you get to see them be horrible. Right in the first 2 minutes of the season, you get to see them being absolutely horrible. Yet, you want to watch them continue to be horrible and you want them to learn. And it's great. It's really well written. It gets you engaged. I'm just looking at the episode list now, and I have to say that the campfire car was probably my favorite episode. That's the one where Hazel has Tuba's funeral. That got me teared up. And it takes a lot to do that, but that was really, really well done. And a big part of that too is the visual aspect, like the storyboarding there, the kind of very, very somber, quiet tone of that, and the beautiful landscape backgrounds and stuff. Like it was leagues beyond anything we'd seen in previous seasons, honestly. And that's just what grabbed me so much about this one. It's what I've mentioned already, probably, that just everything is improved so much here. It's like jarring. If you watched just book one and then watched this one, you'd be like, what is this? I'm watching a completely different show. And that's a good thing. I love that Amelia ended up getting involved. Again, I wish that the sort of reveal of Hazel, that got a little more to it, but it was kind of just there to set up a new book and take Hazel out of the plot so that Grace and Simon could fight. But Amelia was a lot of fun. So I guess if I have negative things to say about this season, it's probably the ending and, I don't know, maybe the use of the cat as well. Or I guess Samantha's her name now. What I feel about the ending, I feel like this is probably something that everybody thinks, is the fact that Simon just becomes like an absolute like Marvel supervillain. It turns into like a good versus bad like Marvel movie for the last maybe 6 minutes of the season. And it's kind of jarring. It kind of like defeats a lot of the really nice like slow burn pacing that was going on, like developing Simon into like a villain and having Grace stray away. Like in that last episode, it just very quickly becomes like so obviously clear who's good and bad. It took quite a bit away. And it was just kind of jarring too that Simon like instantly was covered in numbers and his hair was down and stuff like it. He looked awesome. Like it was an awesome design, but it took me out for a bit because I was like, was Grace asleep for like 5 years or something? Like we're supposed to believe it was only a few hours or something? I don't really know, but that was pretty jarring to me. Of course, that final fight is incredible, and the way they kill Simon is like is horrible. What makes it really horrible is the fact that he is like squealing and like trying to squirm away. Like they absolutely did their best to make that as so terrifying as possible. You feel bad because you see his development prior to that too, but right at the end when he's a really obvious supervillain, it's almost like they had to make him so evil so that when they kill him you feel less bad. But the writing before makes me feel bad. So I don't really know what they were going for, because he just turns into a supervillain so fast. And it's badass, but it's not the best way to approach his ending. My other problem-ish kind of thing, maybe it's just kind of a personal thing, but the cat, like, she isn't an interesting character. I think it's cool that they give her a tie to Simon, but kind of like Hazel and Amelia's thing, like, this season does nothing but just make me wonder more about her. It just gives you more questions to ask about the cat. It doesn't really give any sort of resolution to her character at all. So it seems like a very obvious lingering plot thread, and I guess that's probably what bothers me. I think she couldn't have been in the season. They could have thought of other ways to like get Simon the memory tape, and maybe that just would have been better. Kind of seems more like fan servicey that she shows up again, but not really service to me because I don't really find her all that entertaining. But I guess that's kind of just my main things to say. I don't think I've mentioned yet just how nice the cars are. I think compared to season 2, the cars get less of a focus, and that's something I found as a big problem in season 1. But I think here it's a little okay because I find Grace and Simon's character dynamic and storyline much more interesting than I found Tulip's. And just the cars that are present here anyways are more interesting than the ones that were in season 1. A big part of that is how nice the background art is and all the animation and stuff. It's beautiful. Again, it's so well boarded and presented in a way that is like jarring compared to the previous seasons. In the music too, I know they released a soundtrack for season 1, I think, and then it didn't sell well, so Owen Dennis was saying that they probably would never will again. The music in this season was really standing out to me in a way that it wasn't before. They start the season with a musical sequence, and I love myself musical sequences. But yeah, I guess that's all I have to say. Kind of just general thoughts, things that were on my mind. It's been a few days since I watched it, so maybe I forgot some stuff that I actually thought was significant. But overall, like, definitely quality-wise, this is the strongest book of the bunch, and it's one of the most strongest Western animations I've seen in a very long time. I think I prefer book 2 just because it has a little more imagination to it. It has that slightly like quirky vibe that I prefer over the very, very serious vibe that book 3 has. And book 2 just feels more conclusive as well. Book 2 could have ended and then they could have never made more Infinity Train. But book 3 leaves a lot of dangling things that is like, okay, I guess we need more Infinity Train now. And then, you know, this series is kind of in jeopardy right now. But this is really, really strong. This is an amazingly strong series. I'm sure everybody knows that. I mean, you must have watched it because I just spoiled everything. But if I had to rate this season, I'm going to come up with this on the fly right now, actually. Maybe this is too high. I think this series is an A. I gave book 2 an A-. It's definitely like personal preference. I prefer book 2 to this one, but I can very, very clearly recognize that this one is quality-wise better than book 2 is. So it's an A. I'll say this is an A. But what did you think about Infinity Train book 3? Let me know, and make sure you watch it on HBO Max so we can get another season, because there's a lot of things that I want to see from this show. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and super special thanks to my Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to know when I post a new video. Be sure to stay tuned for more new videos and live streams. Follow me on Twitter and TikTok to get frequent updates and video clips. And consider supporting me on Patreon for just $2 a month to get some behind-the-scenes content, like scripts and review notes, and even early videos. Once we get about 20 Patreon supporters, I'll start a Discord server for us to chat.